Good evening, everybody. Excuse me. Anyhow, it's Mario with Motorcycle Knuckle Busters, and we've got another show lined up for you. Got a great guest that we're going to bring on tonight. Every time we turn around, I see this guy doing something different. He's got a lot of ventures that's going on. We know him from some previous things that he did, but he's always hustling. And I'll see this things that he's doing on Facebook, and he might be picking up a car down in Florida and heading back up to the Northeast, and he's offering to pick up other people's cars and do stuff, just to earn some money and to be able to build his dream. And I think that's what's really unique about this individual. Is that he builds his dreams, and he's done this, and I think it's a model for us all to learn by. So without further ado, I want to introduce Evan Favreau from Speakeasy Motors, whiskey, and lots of other things. How you doing, Evan?
How are you, man? What's going on?
Well, it's all going good, and I'm telling you, I have a hard time keeping up with all the things that's going on. Every time I turn around, it seems like you're doing something. But let's get into telling folks a little bit about about you. And I want people to hear where you grew up and and what life was like for you young coming up before you got into Orange County Choppers and the show there.
Yeah. Well, the hustle is real for sure. I work 8 days a week and million hours a day as much as I can. But yeah, no. Originally, I started my shop down in Jersey in Paramus in 2011. Honestly, I was buying, selling, fixing snowblowers and lawnmowers. That's how I started. That was just kind of paying the bills, and with the eventual end goal of just building custom motorcycles and hot rods. I was 21. I was in the basement of a gas station right on Forest Ave. So a lot of people still remember those good old days.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then a lot of really good memories in that little shithole gas station. And then when I was 23, I got a call to get hired by Orange County Choppers. It was like this, the new TV show was coming out. This was in 2013. And I applied. It was like to the production company. And there's about 1,200 applicants. And I made it. They picked me. I wound up having to fly out to North Hollywood to interview. And then did the whole show thing. And then I wanted to get out of Jersey. So I moved up here. I moved everything up here in the end of 2014. And then over the next couple of months, moved my shop up here, put more additions on the shop, and, just one day at a time, So I was working full time at OCC, and then at night would shoot down to Jersey, run the shop at night. Then when I moved it up here, I was able to get rid of that commute, which was nice.
Oh yeah, that's a bit of a haul. So now, were you raised in Paramus or?
No, I was mostly right next door in Fairlawn. Is
Okay.
Where from when I was in like third grade till I was 24.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's an interesting area. I mean, you're at the doorstep of New York City, which I don't know if a lot of people know that. There's didn't they used to have like didn't Paramus used to have an outlets? Those were like the original outlets. Those in Paramus, New Jersey.
There's like 5 malls, literally 5 malls in that one town.
Yeah.
Which is
So back when I was in the service, I was at Fort Monmouth for a while, and Paramus had this thing. It was outlets, and they were true outlets. So there was all the warehouses because of all the warehouses were there, and they were setting up, and they had storefronts in the front, and you could go in and buy shoes and different things like that, and they were just literally on pallets. It's before outlets got popular, and that was in Paramus. That was interesting, but there's a lot of motorheads there in North Jersey, that's for sure.
Oh yeah, the car and motorcycle scene there is huge. It's just it's really densely populated, and
yes.
We're only 25 minutes, not even, to the George Washington Bridge. So the whole New York City market is all still there, and even where I'm at now in Wallkill, if I left right now with no traffic, I'd be in Manhattan in an hour and 15 minutes. So even when I moved up here, I didn't lose any of that New York City clientele or North Jersey clientele because it's really easy to get up here. There's no congestion. It's not like down there where 3 miles takes a half hour, three miles up here takes 2 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a total difference. And that's, we were talking before we came on is, people, they think of, when you say New York, they think of the city. They don't think about the rest of it. They don't think about going up, the Hudson Valley and all that stuff's just beautiful, beautiful country up there. So
yeah,
nice
I got like
to go around.
some of the most amazing roads up here too. The riding up here is just incredible. 10 minutes down the road, you got the Kerhonkson State Park and all this, people ride from all over just to ride right here in my backyard. It's great.
Yeah, and for those people that like history, that's a great area because if you're going up through, you're going to hit towns like Poughkeepsie, and you can go see the Roosevelt Mansion and stuff like that. Go to the other side, you've got West Point, you got all kinds of cool places, the Vanderbilt mansions, and there's a lot of cool stuff to go see up there, and then just great historic towns.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So the Orange, so to tell folks, as far as like Orange County choppers, I mean, so that got going, you got selected and everything else, and tell for people that don't know, tell them a little bit more of what your role was there, what some of your primary functions and part there was.
So originally I got hired there. My title was creative director. It was kind of like a made up title just for the TV show, but really what I was doing there was fabrication. So I was doing, sheet metal work and tubing and, all the actual metal fabrication, building the actual motorcycles, and fabricating and, all that. So I was building, and it wasn't just me, it was the whole team of us, of course. Like me and Rick, me and Rick were the main fabricators. So we would build the gas tanks and the handlebars and, the framework, stuff like that, and the exhausts, all that stuff. Then we would hand it all off to the painter, and then we would all assemble it together as well. So my role there, depending on how busy we were, how many bikes we were building at one time, sometimes we had 5 builds going on. Sometimes when we were off the air, we'd only have 1 or 2 going on. So we kind of bounce around but usually as soon as I finished like fabbing the one bike and passed to the painter, I would just start fabricating the next one. And then like Christian would work on the assembly after Phil painted it, or Ralph, there's a whole bunch of us.
Right.
There's a bunch of different painters. And so it was kind of like a big revolving, process.
Sure.
We built some really amazing bikes, crazy opportunity. It was like, I got like the accelerated program, I guess, it's like, I'm 23 when I started there. It was just kind of reckless. I got thrown to the wolves and just like fake it till you make it,
Right.
And then it got to the point where, you're hammering out these tanks and bars and exhaust, all that, like, just got really efficient. And it was wild. Like I built bikes for princes in Abu Dhabi, and I built a bike for Shaquille O'Neal and all sorts of brands. Oh my God, I can't even remember them all, but dozens of, big, they weren't all theme bikes. They were all, some of them were just, full custom bikes. Some were totally wild. Some were nice and kind of, moderate pro streets, supercharged bikes, fuel injected bike, like you name it. Like it was really like, I built more bikes in the 5 years I was there. Yeah. About 5 years, than I'll probably ever build in the rest of my entire life, is how many bikes I built in that short amount of period of time, Well,
it was hard to go to, a lot of the big shows around the country and not have a bike that you guys had built for somebody that was displaying it. It could be at a trade show, it could be at a motorcycle show, all these different events. It could be out at Sturgis, or Daytona and stuff like that. You guys have bikes everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was going to say, well, how did that feel to see your work and your creations, getting out there like that and that exposure?
It was great. It got me, some pretty quick notoriety, I guess. It was like the new kid on the block, and then also building, a bike for Shaquille O'Neal when I'm only 25 years old, right? Like, I have a bike in the other shop over here, is like this Lamborghini bike that I did for this client to match his brand new Lamborghini Aventador, and it was cool, but it had its pros and cons, but a lot of people in the motorcycle industry knew me before OCC and like all the, because I was out doing shows and building my brand before, during, and after OCC. OCC
Right.
was just an episode of it all. I've always had Speakeasy, before it, all during it, and then now after it. But with OCC, it comes with the pros and cons of it. Obviously some people love them, some people hate them. It's that they got part of a bad rap and some of it's a good rap. So it's like people knew, I guess, the authenticity that I was trying to bring, I guess, and it wasn't that drama and all that kind of stuff. People knew the real deal.
Well, I think that's why your name has sustained, reason, that you have the respect you have in the community, because it didn't, even though they got a bad rap and not all of it's deserved, some of it, like you said, maybe so, but, at least because you had that reputation beforehand, it didn't tarnish you. And that's pretty cool.
Yeah, right. I tried to keep it separate. People knew the real deal. I just work. I just go to work. It's like I don't get caught up in the bullshit of it. So
yeah, exactly. So we loaded up some pictures. So I'm going to ask Cody to pop one up here real quick, kind of go through some stuff. So we came across this.
Yeah, that was my first muscle car in the background. That '68 Fairlane.
Yeah, that's a great car. But now I saw that and I'm like, okay. So now where was this taken out?
Where did you find that photo?
You would dig it, man. You're going to find some stuff. So.
Holy shit! So when I was in high school, I worked at a motorcycle shop in Jersey. So every day after school during high school, I would go there and work, and that's where that was, in Fairlawn.
Okay.
From when I was like 17 till right when I opened up my shop, 21. So I worked there for about 4 years.
So were you into bikes before that? Did you have a calling to bikes before that, or did you go work there and then discover, man, I love this stuff?
No, even before that. So that's why I wanted to work there, was because of when I was, 12, 13, 14, that's when all like the biker build off shows and all like American Chopper was on. And, I just got super into it. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to like make shit, and fabricate. So that's why I got my job there. I started building mini choppers when I was 14 or so. I bought myself a welder and built some mini choppers in my parents' garage, and was just super into it. I just loved creating things like with my hands. Those shows were a huge inspiration to so many people. There's so many builders out there that undeniably can't say that American Chopper and Biker Build Off weren't inspirations, because they were. They put the custom motorcycle and car scene like in your living room, and that wasn't done before. That wasn't, fabricating stuff wasn't in your living room like it was. It was just like for the real deal guys, magazines here and there, but it wasn't in everyone's living room. And then during that time in the early 2000s, it was like that was the new thing. That whole custom scene was brought to the limelight. And so that's what got me into it. I kind of have like this, not a theory, just the way that I kind of work is like, I'm not like a sports fan. Everyone knows, like, I don't know anything about sport. I'm just as athletic as a potato. Right. So, like, I'm the kind of person where I don't want to watch somebody play a game. I want to go play the game. Right. So I got into like watching all these shows on TV, and I was like, well, I want to try it. Let me try to build a bike. Well, I'm 13, 14 years old. I'm not going to go out and, obviously I don't have the money to go buy a Harley, but, and chop it up. But like, I was able to piece together, a little like 9 horsepower Briggs motor and, mini chopper type stuff. And that was kind of like the start of it all, and then it just kind of snowballed really from there.
Yeah. It's funny because, I was talking to Billy Lane the other day. We were talking about this, talking about, those shows and what they did and the inspiration, and I think he looks back at it, and he's like, wow, we did something special there. That was a very unique thing. And he was actually telling us he wants to go back and do some things where they do some commentary talking about those shows and kind of bring them back. I think that'd be kind of neat to get their perspective of when these things were going on and what was what was going on in the background.
Yeah.
Because we just see a couple of guys and they'd show them riding a bike and then they go riding in and they have the build off and then the end and wherever they were at picking the winner and that sort of thing. That's what we saw. We saw some of the fab, but what was going on in the background. And for you, the going on in the background, you were watching that, that's something for you that's part of your history now. That's helped define you. And you said, man, I want to get out there and do it. And there's a lot of guys just like you, and gals as well. It inspired many. So I think that's pretty unique. But you got to be also part of that because you got to be part of that next wave that also inspired.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember Billy Lane was a perfect example of that. Was like, the first biker build off, right? Down at the Smokeout. And watching him, he was like one of my main inspirations. And then years go by, I was at Michael Lichter's show in Sturgis, and I'm looking at all the bikes, and I'm looking at this bike, and Billy Lane walks up next to me, and we just start bullshitting. And it was the first time I met him, and he's like, I've been watching your stuff. He's like, you do some really awesome builds, and I was just like, me? I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I've been watching you. I was like, wow, it was like really like humbling. It was pretty cool. And then now we're doing the Smokeout down in North Carolina, and he's one of the Legends and Legacies thing that he's doing. That Chris Cycle Source is doing, and he's one of the legends, and I'm on the other side of it, the legacy side of it. It was pretty amazing how it kind of comes full circle. And
it really is. It really is, and it's so. I always find it so interesting to talk to you and the other guys. Is that you all have such a deep respect for the work that the other guy's doing. You guys recognize, the quality and the craftsmanship. But who else could appreciate it more though than the guys actually doing it?
Sure. Yeah, and it's really there's none of it's competitive. There's no competition. There's so much work out there. There's like that. It's not even a competition. There's so much custom work that needs to be done that you just can't keep up. It's kind of like everyone. It's a big support system. The custom community is really tight. It's a really small world, and like there's times where if I need to turn a job down, I'll turn them towards other builders. Like, hey, like this kind of job that you want, I can't take it on right now. I might be too busy, but here's another builder that suits that style and would kill it just as good as I could or better.
Right.
There's jobs where it's like they'll come in, it's like it's not really my thing. Go try this guy. That's his specialty.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because it all, really cool. Keep everybody up together,
Yep. So let's pull up another picture. Maybe this one won't surprise you so much. So, but yeah, so there's a day, back in the day with you two. So, so now do you get a chance to keep tabs or talk with Paul very often?
Here and there. Him and I had a love-hate relationship for sure. Oh geez, where do I even start with Paul? He's crazy, he's like that all that craziness on TV really wasn't made up, all the shit between him and his son. But like his personality, he's nuts. He's either the coolest guy or he's a total lunatic. He goes through phases with me, I guess. Sometimes he'll love me, but most of the time, I think he hates me. He got weird. Like once he knows that, like I have a lot. Like when I left there, it was pretty mutual. It was like I have too much going on at my shop. And I was falling behind here, and we weren't filming anymore. And it was like I needed to kind of separate. And I think he got a little like weird about it, that I was busier than he was. So he didn't really like that too much, but it's all right. Here and there, every once in a while, I'll wish him a happy birthday, or I'll shoot him a text and, bust his balls. But
so you were saying, you got really busy with the shop there, mutual agreement, but it's worked out fine. I mean, you've done stuff. I mean, now the bike you did for Pink, was that a bike you had fabricated already, or did you custom build that for her? Or was that,
no.
I think that was yours.
Yeah, that was I built that bike for the Hot Bike Tour. I rode that bike I put over 3,000 miles on that thing. I had known that. I just built that for myself. I built that, rode it from here down to Tennessee. And then when I was out in Daytona for Bike Week, is when I became friends with Carrie Hart.
Yeah.
Just bullshitting, just bar talk, you know. And I've never been like a huge motocross fan. I didn't really know who, like, you know, I didn't know the history. We just became friends, you know, like genuinely. So like he saw, you know, some of the work that I was doing and vice versa. And I know that he was tied up with Indian. So he asked me and Jake from Barnstorm Cycles to come out and do a build with him on an Indian, brand new Indian. And he flew us out there. We all flew out to Vegas, partied in Vegas for a while, did a bunch of like celebrity bartending type things, and then rode from Vegas 440 miles on brand new Indians out to their house for like 2 weeks. And that's where we built that Indian out there, which was an amazing experience. But the reason I bring that up was when we were there, we're all just bullshitting, hanging out, and Alicia Pink was flipping through my website. She was just checking out my other builds and stuff, and she was like, "What is that?" And it was a picture of my bike in front of Bear Butte in Sturgis.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that's my bike that I built." And she's like, "I want it." And I was like, "You can have it." Like, yeah, it was just all a picture on the internet, so it was great. No intention of selling it. She just saw it and wanted it. So we finished up the bike for Indian, finished out the build. And the next day, Carrie was just like, you know, I know you guys were kind of wine drunk, but like she's pretty serious. Like she really wants to buy this bike from you. And I was like, sure, let's do it. So a couple weeks goes by. My then fiance, now wife, we took a 2-week road trip, and I put the bike in the bed of my truck and drove cross country. It was great to deliver it to her.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I've always wanted to drive across country. It was just a really awesome experience. We took our time doing it. Hit a bunch of awesome cities, and a lot of great landmarks, and just really, really enjoyed it. So drove out there. They're like near like Santa Barbara.
Yes.
Stayed there for a few nights, turned around, came back, and yeah, it was great. Really memorable,
Yeah, and Carrie and her, they're just genuine people. They really are.
Yeah.
And that's the reason you could sit down and just start bullshitting with him in Daytona, because that's the way he is.
Yeah.
I think he had that. Was that the Indian? Did you modify the Indian he took like to Columbus, to his big ride in Columbus? Is that the one?
It was called the King Killer. It had that nacelle kind of wing in the front that I built. Jake from Barnstorm dished the tank and built a cool aluminum dashboard. Did a stainless exhaust on it. Really cool bike. It was like the Marlboro race team color. It was like red and black and gold. There yellows and golds and stuff.
Yeah, I remember that bike. Yeah, that's a nice bike.
Yeah, I'll tell you, those Indians are really impressive. Just riding it, I rode the Chieftain at 440 miles. It was just like cake. Really, really impressive bikes.
Yeah, they definitely are. And, Carrie's been an ambassador for them. Them supporting his charities and the things he does for a while. So that's been a good thing for him. That's for sure.
Yeah. And we stay in touch. I talk to him, and I talk all the time. We stay in touch and still do some stuff here and there together. Yeah. And then, we went out there. They do like a Memorial Day kind of party deal. Not since COVID, but,
right.
So it was great. We became, nice personal friends where we can go out there and party at their house just to party. Like, just really, really genuine, really good people.
That's very cool. Very, very cool. So
yeah.
Let's see what else we got for pictures here. So I saw this one. Now, I know what it is. I think they're cool as hell. Now, if that belong to you?
Yeah, I actually just sold that.
Did you really?
Yeah, like 2 months ago. So that's an auxiliary fuel tank off of an F-86 Saberjet, Korean warplane. And I got that. I sold a car to a guy years ago, and he had 2 of those hanging from his ceiling. And I worked that into the deal of the car. I just had to have it. I was like, oh, I'm going to build like a belly tanker out of it, build a flat
Yeah,
track car out of
absolutely.
it. And then, it just hung there for years and I'm never going to get it. It's a little too small to build a tanker out of. So,
Oh, is that one a little too small? Yeah, that would be.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I love when they take them out to the salt flats and run them and everything else. It's just what a cool, cool project it would be.
Yeah. You got to get the early one. The World War II, like the P-51s, had the bigger
Yeah, those
tanks.
were bigger. Yeah,
Yeah. So those were, that's what like most of the salt flat cars are built out of the World War II ones. This one was a
yeah.
little smaller.
Okay, that I didn't realize. So I knew the P-51s were big, but I didn't realize the Korean era ones were a lot smaller. So
Yeah,
yeah, they're important today.
there you go. Yeah, it was about 4 foot difference and bigger in diameter too. Like you'd have
Yeah,
to be 4 foot tall to fit that thing, and like they're already tight as it is.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, I noticed that. I thought that was cool. I was just curious about what you had going on with that. So let's
yeah,
pop up another picture here. Um, so just you know, people, just wanted them to understand. You're a fabricator. I mean, you're a creator.
yeah. I mean, you could see like in the background there, that is a gate that I built for my brother's pool. Um, just did a whole custom stair railing setup. Um, what I'm welding there, if I remember correctly, that was an old like police baton or something. It was used for beating people. It broke. Somebody brought it by. A buddy of mine was like, his dad was in the I don't know Russian police or something back in the day, and it was like some old relic that broke. So I welded that together for him. I don't like I do. If you came into the shop, it's not just motorcycles and hot rods. Like my big project that I've been pushing on, if you've been watching like my Instagram and stories and all that, I do a lot of like antique lighting and furniture.
Yep.
But my really big project right now in the fab shop is I'm building a bar top for a bar in Soho in New York City. And just the designer reached out to me and she sent me all these blueprints and it's really cool, like twisted rope metal. And it's 16 feet long and it's got 48 vertical twisted rope sections that I made. It's going to be 1/2 inch glass the whole way, but like 2 tiers of it. It's like a shelving system almost. So it's going to be your
Right.
bar top, 2 foot 10 inch stanchions, a big shelf, glass, another stanchion, another glass shelf, and then the rest to the ceiling. And it's going to, for all the liquor bottles and stuff, and then a railing that wraps around the whole thing. And then we're going to antique paint it. And, also for that same restaurant, I did a bunch of like brass inlays for the floor into the mosaic tiles. I've done a lot of like chandeliers. A really cool project that I did was, if you look back a couple weeks, I just posted a picture recently. I built this giant, or was part of the build of this giant chandelier that's hanging in Estee Lauder's pool house, the makeup company. It's like,
Yeah.
I guess this giant pool house, and we built this huge. I mean, the thing was like a 600 or 800 pound, circles that got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it was massive. The bottom circle was like 7 feet in diameter. It was really really cool. So
I didn't
yeah,
see that. I'll have to go back and take a look at that. That sounds absolutely fascinating.
yeah,
So
a lot of furniture replication. So I got a customer of mine that locally actually that does like antique. He'll sell it down in the city. A customer wants this antique chair and they want a set of 6, but they're antiques. So there's only one. There's only 2. So we'll take them apart. I'll duplicate the frames. He'll powder coat them, upholster them, stuff like that.
yeah, that's amazing. That's just such a talent. That's the reason I wanted, that picture I wanted to talk about because I've seen so many things, some of the stuff you posted and fabrication of that work, and it's just absolutely amazing. I mean, you're a motorcycle builder, you restore cars, you're doing all these amazing things, and I'd like people to know that about you. So let's see, let's check out another picture here. So this is what I wanted to segue into, and now
Yeah.
you've been doing the whiskey for a while.
Yeah, 2019 started. So this was like just this like hot air idea that I had one day that like I'm trying to build like I guess Speakeasy Motors not into just hot rods and motorcycles, more of like a lifestyle brand, right? So that era of speakeasies, I like, you know, the 30s. Obviously, you can see behind me and next to me is like that 30s and 40s and the Zephyr over there.
Yeah.
That era car, right? And back then was Prohibition. And to me, the spirits industry is, and like creating spirits and creating a really nice cocktail in my eyes, just another form of a craft. It's like unbelievable. So you know, locally, the Gardner Liquid Mercantile that we teamed up with to start this whole endeavor, like watching them make a cocktail, it takes 10 minutes to make a cocktail. It's like it's not just like crack a beer and give it to you. It's like
Nope.
watching them work and make this amazing cocktail. It's a craft, you know, and it was like it's just another art form. So that's what really got me into it. One was just because, you know, they were good, but like also the craft and like I didn't even know the extent of it when we first started, of really how in depth and how artistic meets science really is in the spirits industry, as well as the fabrication industry. That's where I tied the two together. It's art and science, and you have to find that balance, you know.
Yeah, that's quite amazing. Now, what do you with your whiskey? What kind of drinks do you like to make?
So we're a rye whiskey, so it's a high corn rye though, so it's got the sweetness of a bourbon and the spice of a rye. So we kind of consider it like a rye for bourbon drinkers, you know. Really well rounded, makes really good cocktails, and I personally like it neat, on the rocks, neat, you know, nice straight. But then all the cocktails that we make there at our tasting room, we just opened up our tasting room about 5 or 6 weeks ago. We got a wide variety of cocktails there, from whiskeys and vodkas and gins and brandies, and it's all New York grown. It's all New York grains. Everything is a New York product, and it has to be because we're what's called a farm distillery. So what that does is it promotes New York agriculture. So we're supporting New York farmers and other products that we don't make, like we don't make beer or vodka yet. So we use other New York distillers that are making vodkas, beers, gins. What we make there is our, you know, we do all the blending and bottling for the rye, and apple brandy, stuff like that, and, you know, other experimental stuff. But on the shelves now is our rye, our maple rye, apple brandy, a couple liqueurs. Mm-hmm.
So what's your favorite of them? Or are they all your favorites?
I don't play favorites. You know, it depends what mood I'm in, you know.
That's true.
One drink that I'm really getting to appreciate more and more as my palate kind of I guess I get experience with it, is gin. You know, like everybody remembers gin as that disgusting drink that their grandfather used to drink. You know, it's like, no, it's like if you have a really good gin that's super, I guess, floral, and the effervescence of it is just like amazing. It's so complex. There's like a lot going on. It's just a very complex drink, and it's also super refreshing on a nice hot day, you know.
Well, the first thing I got drunk on was gin, and I puked my guts out, and I've never had it since. So you know, maybe after all these years, it's time to try it again.
Yeah. Yep. Another drink that we're big into, Mark, my partner, is really big into bringing back the popularity of apple brandy. You know, apple brandy's been around forever. George Washington was making apple brandy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's never been a super popular drink. I don't know if it's like maybe people don't know the proper ways to use it, or like its place. But it's amazing. You know, it's really good, really well-rounded. Another really well-rounded spirit you can use as a replacement for whiskeys. You know, if you don't want whiskey, replace that ingredient with a brandy. You know.
Yeah, we went into, there's a place down by Leesburg, Virginia, that makes apple brandy that I had years ago, and I completely, until you mentioned, I kind of forgot about it. But yeah, it's really good. It's
Yeah,
really good.
it's gaining its popularity again, for sure.
Yeah, I'll have to get some to throw on my shelf. I've got an assortment of stuff, but that's something I don't have there. So that's a good
Yeah.
idea right there. So let's
Spirits go through phases in time, like there's
they do.
times, where whiskey's super popular, then it dives off, and then vodkas are really popular, and then whatever, it goes through, just like fashion, just in the society, it's just the way it works.
Yeah,
So apple
it's very,
brandy
very
is,
true.
is on its way back up.
Yeah, that's very cool. Um, so yeah, it's so tell them about the tasting room. I know you opened that. You put a lot of work into that tasting room. So tell folks about that and where it's at.
Yeah, so the tasting room is at a local winery, Baldwin Winery. The reason we have it there is it's local. It's like 8 miles away from my shop. Um, our friends of ours own it. So the way we all know each other, like Mark was the sound guy and producer from American Chopper. So that's how I met Mark. And then he's also obviously super big into spirits. He's the one that's running the still and all that.
Okay.
And that's how him and I met. And then Alex was one of the cameramen on the show, and his wife's family owns the winery. So that's
Okay.
how
Very
they had
cool.
this. Yeah. So it all kind of intertwines. We're all just friends. And he's like, "Oh, I got this building that would make a great spot." We already have the draw of their winery. It's just a really good spot for it. It was like this goat barn, and it was just filled with junk. It was, totally dilapidated. The roof was leaking. Just you open up the doors, and it was like a goat barn for like forever. And it was just filled with junk. So we emptied it all out. I built a whole outdoor pavilion, and every morning I would go there every morning, work there for about 3-4 hours, come to the shop, run the shop the rest of the day. So that was like the morning shift, and the shop was the rest of the day. It took about a year to get it, up and open, and all the restoration, and then the actual refurbishment of it. I found all real authentic furniture from that era and earlier, and built a really cool, I don't know if you have any photos of it. Built just a really cool environment.
I can't remember if we did any photos of that or not, but for those, need to go check it out because it looks like one of the most coolest. It looks like a place you could just sit back, relax, and chill.
Yeah. I got like all the furniture is like from that Victorian early 1900s, and it's not like reproduction stuff. It's all real authentic furniture, just reupholstered. Early player piano, an old Victrola, felt like wallpaper, just these really cool marble and glass tables, and really cool bar. It's I can guarantee you it's not like any bar you've been to. It's a really, really cool. Just it feels like it. My goal in the beginning was I wanted it to feel like you stepped into the Ritz Carlton, but back in the 20s.
Sure. Yeah, and
Really.
I think you've accomplished that because it looks like that to me, that era, I think was one of those unique and fascinating eras. I love the way they dressed. I love the style of the day, the furniture, just the whole, the whole attitude, was really cool.
Yeah.
I love the people from that period. So I kind of
design.
think that's kind of my calling in a way. So that's the reason when I see what you're doing there, that really speaks to my art.
Yeah. Just from an art standpoint, that Art Deco vibe, and how that, again, I like to take like design and automotive design, and relate that all to furniture design, and just the art back then, and the artists, and it all overlaps. All the cars were modeled after that styling technique, and all the furniture, and it all kind of
Yeah,
comes together.
it's funny too because I was at an estate sale a couple of weeks ago, and I went over just because I had a little bit of time. I was actually looking for old silverware, and I went over and there was this Art Deco lamp. And when I looked at it first, I thought it must be kind of a reproduction of the period reproduction. I went over and picked that thing up. The thing weighs 40 pounds. It's just a floor, and it didn't have the shade. I found a really cool shade to go with it.
Found it's no vintage shade and stuff. But couldn't believe how heavy it was. I mean, that stuff was made right. And it's just so artistic, the lines and everything. That's what I loved about that Art Deco style.
Yeah, and that carried over into automotive design. Look at 30s and 40s cars. It's all overlapping eccentric circles, and look at like the Zephyr behind me, just like the long swoops, and that's that Art Deco design.
Yeah, that's
just amazing, period. And even the bikes, when you go back, you see some of the bikes and some of the stuff that was done in Europe at the time, and France and Germany and stuff. It was all really, really cool stuff. So Cody, let's see what picture we got next. So tell me about this bike.
That bike's got a lot of really authentic history to it too. That was Cypher. That bike I built for Born Free in 2016, I think. 26, yeah, I think it's 2016. That was actually an original barn find. It was most of it was originally built in the early 80s.
Okay.
So it was like a real digger, and it was left in a barn for 40 years. I changed the tank and modified the rear fender and stuff, and obviously refurbished everything. But it's an original Arlen Ness digger frame, original Arlen Ness exhaust that I banged all the dents out and refurbished it and re-chromed it. But then combined it with a lot of like modern techniques. That whole system, there's a whole CAN bus wiring system, all electronic and stuff. I raised the rear fender and widened it to run a little bigger tire on the rear. The front, those mag wheels never had dual discs on them. So I machined the hub and actually machined the spokes to be a little more narrow. So that way the sandcasted PM calipers, those are like the original sandcast PM calipers. We just polished them and restored them to run dual disc on the front. Custom machine the trees because we had to widen the legs a little bit.
Yeah.
That's an early Dave Perowitz paint job underneath that paint job on the tank, that early rocket tank that I stretched. I got pictures of the bike that tank was on from like, I think it was on like an Easy Rider or Street Chopper, but like from the 70s. And unfortunately, we were going to save it and base the whole paint job off of that bike, but it wound up just not working out. But that was an original Perowitz setup on an early Nest Digger rocket tank. So that bike is a lot of like real early chopper parts and and some new stuff. Like that air cleaner cover was a giant hunk of billet that you CNC machined. So it was like a mix of like real authentic early stuff and modern stuff blended together.
So where's that bike now?
It's actually my client. He's right in Newburgh.
Okay.
He's actually my client that I do a lot of the antique lighting and furniture for.
So that's just a really cool piece. I mean, it stood out to me, but I had no idea it had that kind of fascinating history. So it's pretty unique in the bike world.
I'm going to be bringing that bike to the Smokeout. That bike and Ethel, the white and green XS 650. I'm going to bring those two down to the Smokeout in Tennessee, North Carolina.
North Carolina, yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, that's a good choice because I'd like to see that. I don't know if I'll make it down there, but I'd love to see that in person. So
yeah.
All right. Well, Cody, what else do we got to look at? So your love of cars, I had to pop that because you've alluded to it a lot, and loving this era, loving these cars. So tell folks about this car.
That's my baby right there. That's sitting behind me right here.
Yep.
That's that car. So when I worked I've always wanted a coupe. That 30 Model A coupe has been my dream car forever. Just that body style that year. I just always wanted a 30 Model A coupe. And I was looking for one, and I was always looking for one, and never time was never right, or just financially I didn't have the money. And then this was when I still worked at OCC. I just got my tax return, right? And my roof on my house was leaking. So I was like, all right, I'm using my tax return money to re-roof my house. So I get the tax return, and laying in bed one night, and I'm flipping through Instagram or Facebook Marketplace, whatever it was, and I definitely had way too many beers in me. And this car came up for sale in Texas, and I was like, sold. I was like, screw the roof. It'll wait till next year. So the roof, I didn't fix it. I got done the following year. So I bought this
Right.
car, and it was an original 4-cylinder car. And the body is just the way you see it, except I clear coated it. So I get the car up, comes from Texas. I get it here. It doesn't run. I finally get it running. It ran, but it, kind of shitty. And then I'm the kind of guy where I'll take this, 90-year-old car and just get in it and just drive it, just go like tear it up. And then I eventually blew the motor up like bad. Like I'm talking piston rings in the oil pan, like exploded the thing.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, all right, I could take the easy route and just rebuild this 4-cylinder, cheap, easy, quick, or I can go the really long, time-consuming, very expensive route and build a traditional hot rod and go with the flathead V8, rebuild the whole chassis. It's the original Model A chassis, but the F1 steering box and the flathead V8 and a 39 trans and a 39 banjo rear, solid front, front axles dropped. I did that car in a very traditional way where it's all early speed parts just restored.
Right.
It's not just, a Chevy 350 Model A. It's a real deal. It took longer to source those parts than it did to build the car, so the next couple of years, I just started sourcing the parts and getting the heads I wanted and getting the motor and the block and getting the axles and getting the, all that stuff and put it all together. And that's my daily drive. I was just driving that car today just for errands. I went out and got my breakfast this morning. I take the car out.
That's cool.
Yeah. Like I work so much that I don't really like take time off to go ride motorcycles or just go out driving. So I started, I'm like, all my cars are just sitting there. I was like, let me start using them as my parts getters. So if I got to go to Napa or at whatever, name a store, I'll just take the car out.
And I'm sure you're turning heads when you go. So, I mean, now doesn't that slow you down a little? Everybody wants to come out, check it out, ask questions, pick your brain about it.
I'll tell you what, if you ever want to pick up old men, that is the car to drive. Yeah.
So you're probably going to get some your older lady heads reaching out to you wanting to buy that car now because you just made that statement at 53. So I don't know how many old ladies are watching this, but who knows?
But everybody's grandparents had a Model A at some point,
Yep.
It's just, I don't know. There's something just very authentic about it. I built that car for our wedding. So we left the church in that car, and it was that car, that car is going to be like never for sale. That car will never be for sale kind of build,
Right. No, I get that. So let's put another picture up talking about these sort of things. So I love this poster because it's now talking more. I realize, it
designed at Art Deco. It's all designed. It all fits the speakeasy. It fits your persona and what you love.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that flyer, that Model A, I finished building for the Race of Gentlemen. So that's just a really cool front shot of that car that I built. It's the same model as my car, but pretty much the same platform, V8, flathead V8, and we built that for the Race of Gentlemen down in Jersey.
Okay.
But that is for my open house. So that was my 10th anniversary open house. That was for last year. Yeah. So I started in 2011. So 2021 was my 10th anniversary. So I do the open house every year. I'm on 10.5 acres here. So I got plenty of land to have the event. Right. So it's a big charity thing I do. So it's totally free. All the food, I got bands playing, everything's free. And it's just like donation based. So everything we raise all the money for is for Autism Speaks charity. So
awesome.
last year we raised over 10 grand. That was our biggest goal yet. So we broke 10 grand. Probably there must have been 500 or 600 people here. It was pretty wild.
So when's the next open house?
I didn't pick a date yet, but it'll probably be around that same mid to late October or so.
Okay.
Just keep an eye on like all my socials and stuff. It'll be plastered
And then
everywhere.
for those that don't realize where you're at in New York, I mean, that is, gorgeous time of year there
Yeah,
to get out and see the countryside. So yeah, let's make sure you get us the information because we'll share it we'll share it here on Knuckle Busters, the Chopper Show page, and other things like that. We'll make sure we get the word out. And I can
yeah,
always do announcements, for any of the shows that are going on around that time as well. Remind people to come out for that. So
yeah,
no
yeah.
autism.
I'm hosting a car show locally next month at a local bar. I'll put some flyers out for that, and then that's my big open house. It's a really really good time. And yeah, I over the past 10 years, if we raised just over 10 grand this year, and then each year was progressively, slightly less. So each year it's been going up, by about 15, 2,000 bucks. So we probably raised, I don't know, over the 10 years, probably over 40 grand
Oh,
for
that's great. Good for you.
charity, Yeah.
Yeah, I'd love
Yeah,
to
it's
do more
fun.
like that.
Yeah. It's people like coming out to events like that. It's a donation based setup. So like the way we raise the money is we have a bunch of prizes that companies and other, local businesses donate gift certificates or handmade, whatever, like we had like almost 80 raffles. So you buy raffle tickets and you bid on, what you want to win.
Right.
What is
Yeah,
that?
drop
Is that
the
a Chinese?
tickets in and hope you get
Yeah.
picked.
What is that? A
So,
Chinese auction? I don't know what they call it.
I forget what they call it. I think you're right. I think it is Chinese auction.
Yeah.
So Cody, what else do we got for pictures? So you
Yeah.
mentioned your wedding in the car. There's that picture. Man, what an
Yeah.
iconic picture. I mean, that's there's your beautiful car, but better yet, there's your beautiful bride.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. That was and so our wedding, our third wedding anniversary is coming up next month, in July. And it was, so it's the middle of July and she's in a dress in this car with no air conditioning, right? So I got a like a 12-volt electric ice box kind of setup with these
Yeah.
long tubes. So I had a whole box of ice in the trunk with this 12-volt fan set up and all these hoses that ran up to the front so she could have some cold air on her for the drive.
That's being a good man. That's
Yeah.
that's the way to be a good groom. That's for sure. So
Yeah, that's my favorite photo, I think, or one of our favorite photos from the wedding. I got like a big puzzle of that photo, like made into a big puzzle that hangs above our bed.
yeah, I think that's a beautiful picture.
Yeah.
So Cody, we got anything else to pop in there? So you just put this picture on Facebook, and so
Yeah, it's my ass.
you
Nice.
right, yeah, right.
Oh, the bike. Oh, got it.
No, you explain the whole thing and the story behind that because I think this is a pretty fun story.
So that bike we built, obviously when I worked at OCC, for the Geico, they have like a cat boat, like the cigarette boat race team.
Yep.
We built for, and it's this giant supercharger that comes up straight above the motor through the gas tank. And that gas tank I molded so the front holds the alcohol fuel, race fuel, and the back it's also fuel injected. So the back holds the ECU and all that, all the computer programming end of it.
Yep.
Probably around 250 horsepower, rigid frame. I think it was like a 300 tire. Totally ridiculous power. I mean, that thing you couldn't not roast the tire on that bike. So we brought it to the airport right around the corner. That's my buddy's 1950 Cessna behind it. So they let us use the runway for that day to take the drive, like the riding shots, and all the drone footage and everything. And Senior was too scared to ride it. He's like, I don't want to ride this friggin' thing. So I put his helmet and his jacket on, and then we were able to do it with the drone footage where it looks like him, but it was actually me on there. So I was a stunt double.
Yeah, so
And
he didn't want to he didn't want to take that for a ride, now did he?
no, I think he rode it around the building once and was just like, nope. I mean, that thing, it was ridiculous. Man, I've ridden a lot of overpowered vehicles like that Scout I just built. But that thing was just insane. And I remember I was coming down the runway and I'm booking. flying down this thing, and the throttle stuck. And yeah, as I'm riding, I had to, it's got the big butterfly right in your face. So like when you're sitting on that thing, that blower is literally right in front of you. And luckily the throttle cable comes up right to the butterfly. I had to remember, like, physically reach up and grab the butterfly and shut it. I don't know why, it just like stuck a little bit.
Yeah, that would be a little bit nerve-wracking, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So now, so you've got all these things going on. I tell people you're always hustling. You've always got something. You're always being very industrious. Any other big plans? Anything that that you're going to be working on that might folks out there might find exciting?
Well, I do the auto transport. I built that big trailer and everything, so I could do like luxury, exotic, classic auto and motorcycle transport. That was like my newest thing. Basically, I needed a way to justify wanting to buy this and build this big fancy trailer. I like it. It just gets me out of the shop. Every once in a while, I need to like reset and just get out of here for a minute, and I'll just go drive to wherever, Ohio, Florida, just go out for a minute. I haven't been doing it too much since the price of fuel has skyrocketed.
Right.
So I kind of throttled back on that a little bit, just because you can't charge enough. Like the cost of fuel is just too high. It just costs too much money to move stuff right now. So, and I get it. Like, people aren't going to pay the rates that I have to charge, because I'm only moving one car at a time. I'm not a 9-car hauler where I could do it cheap. It's not why I'm doing this. So the rates have to go up drastically to make it a profitable business move,
Sure.
But between that, behind me, that Lincoln Zephyr build, I can't say or do too much. I kind of like probably shouldn't even look at it, but it's for a big company, for another builder. Can't really say too much about it, I guess, but
right.
Similar to the OCC thing of, we build it and then they put their name on it. It's kind of a similar situation. I'm doing all the fabrication, but it's going to have another name on it. But so there's that. That's also on a really tight deadline. They want that thing done in like 2 months, which I don't think is realistic. I've got this bar set up going on. The tasting room, of course, and the whiskey. And so that's always expanding, and we're trying to, other products. We're going to come out with a bourbon soon. Right next to me here is a 40 Ford pickup that I'm building. There's a 67 Bronco behind the shop that I haven't even started yet, that I need to do a full restoration on.
Nice.
A bunch of bikes. I got a Model A in the other shop on a 32 rails and a big block in it. That's another really big build going on. Realistically, I would say if I didn't take in another job for 3 years, I'd probably, be pretty good with all these restorations. They take up a lot of time, and I'm really meticulous.
It sounds like it.
Yeah. But I do have another business model lining up. I have 10.5 acres here, so I'm trying to, I have a bunch of road frontage, and I'm going to be using that land for the next business endeavor, which you're going to have to stay tuned on, I guess. I don't want to give too much away, because if it doesn't happen, then,
I totally get that. Don't want to
doesn't matter,
stuff. So
yeah, I don't want to say anything until it becomes an actual physical thing. But I've already started talking to the town, some permitted uses and all that, and teaming up with a couple other like-minded individuals. But it ties everything all together. It's a very similar business model, dealing with cars and motorcycles and whiskey, and that, trying to cater to that elite market of collectors and,
well, I'll be looking forward to seeing that.
lifestyle.
And maybe we'll circle back around sometime. We'll talk about all that stuff. So, every episode we ask our guests 3 questions, and so we're here to the end. And I hope people learned a lot about you, and heard some stories they haven't heard before and stuff like that. But you ready for 3 questions that we posed to everybody?
I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
Okay. They're pretty simple. So if you could go ride with anybody, go ride motorcycles with anybody, past or present, who would Evan like to go ride?
Oh man, that's a great question. I would probably. I don't have one specific person. I don't know. I would say other builders, like other. I like to be around other builders on their machines. I guess is what I would say. Or somebody that I like to hang out with people that are smarter than me. That we learn
Right.
stuff. I guess is probably what I would say. I don't really.
Well, that's got to be a small group. I got to tell you, Evan. So
I don't know.
ones that are smarter than you. So, all right. Well, and then so you're so eclectic in what you like and everything else. So I think this is going to be an interesting answer. If you could own any motorcycle, anything, what would it be?
If I were to own any motorcycle, well, it depends on the application, I guess. Am I riding it or am I just to own it? Since I was a kid, the Flying Merkle, the original board track, the orange Flying Merkle, has always been that iconic. That was probably the motorcycle that got me into that era of motorcycles that that Ethel was kind of based off of. And I'm lucky enough to have the Motorcyclepedia Museum right down the road that's loaded with Flying Merkle, all that other era. But yeah, I would say that because that bike has always just been an icon in my mind, I guess, for that era of not just racing, but of history and what it all evolved into,
Yeah, the Flying Merkles are so cool. I love it when you go out to Meekum and I see them go across the block. And I'm Dutch, so or anything orange, we us Dutch people love. So
Nice.
really cool. So now, last question: if you could go ride anywhere in the world, where would you like to go ride?
Ooh, nice. In the world, maybe I don't know. I've never been to Europe, but I would think somewhere in the Alps or something pretty wild like that. I would say
I've done it. It's great riding. I mean, so hopefully you get that chance because the roadways are fantastic.
Yeah.
The drivers are they're very courteous.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to get a license over there, and then it's easy to lose it. So they don't mess around. They respect the road and how they drive and other, riders and drivers and everything else. So I hope you get it. I'm sure you'll get a chance to do that sometime.
I would say some of the best riding I've done, at least in the country, was out in other than Eastern Tennessee and the Tail of the Dragon, that area, the Blue Ridge, which is just incredible riding. Out in Needles Highway, out in that Sturgis area, that was unreal. That so amazing. Just the scenery changing from the plains out to the crazy mountains up to Mount Rushmore and getting caught in a hailstorm out there and on that bike that I sold to Pink. It was just so impressive. It was just the scenery was just breathtaking.
That's my favorite thing about Sturgis. I mean, it's gotten to the point I like, just seeing all, people you see year after year. So it's getting together for a family reunion in some ways. And then the riding is fantastic. And I think that's why Sturgis is so unique amongst rallies.
Yeah. I rode I flew out to my buddy, Pat Jansen. He actually married me and my wife. And he was another
Pat
MC.
Jansen,
yeah. You know Pat?
Yeah.
He's the great. He's the best. He's the best. So he flew out, or him and his wife Tracy drove out and was ordained and married us. We flew out to his house in Des Moines in Iowa, and originally we were just going to drive to Sturgis because we were going out there for Cycle Source to do I do metal shaping on stage there. So I would build gas tanks and all that. So originally we were just going to get in the truck and drive out there, and he surprised me and had an extra bike, and we wound up riding the 700 miles from Des Moines to Sturgis. And
Nice.
that was like unforgettable. Through the plains of South Dakota, from those long cornfields of just straight, and then all of a sudden the scenery changes and you're in these crazy, the mountains, and we rode through the Badlands, and just something, that I've never done, because I'm like the shoemaker's kid. I don't really ride motorcycles often, other than test driving or test driving these cars and test riding customer motorcycles. I don't really get a chance to ride often, unfortunately, and I have some of the best riding right here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, Evan, we'll keep tabs on you, please. Anything that you have coming up, events, those sort of things, share them with us. We want to make sure we get the word out. When you do your open house, we definitely want to let folks know about that, the car show, all that stuff. So anything you want us to share with the audience out there, get it to us. We'll make sure folks are aware of it.
Awesome. I appreciate it, man. Yeah, I'll send you those flyers for sure. I got the car and bike show coming up about 3
Perfect.
weeks at the Parkview House right here in town. Really good turnout. Again, that's another charity setup that we do.
Absolutely
really
love it. Well, thank you for coming on, and all of you guys out there, have a good evening. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Mario. Appreciate it, man.